Hello everyone, and welcome to this very special Q&A edition of Beyond the Kingdoms. Like always, I am your host David, and like I've been joined for all my Q&As this year, I've got Korliss, known as your Disney homegirl. Hi Korliss, how you doing?
Hey David, I'm doing good.
Guys, I'm really excited. This is going to be our last Q&A for 2020, but I do not think it'll be the last of Korliss and I collaborating together. But we're going to end with a nice bang covering your questions about special events. Now, we open this up to any special event throughout the year at Walt Disney World, but naturally, I wasn't surprised by this. We got mostly questions based on Halloween party and Christmas party. So a lot of what we're going to tackle today is based on that, but don't worry, we'll sprinkle in a few other events as well. So without further ado, let's jump into your Disney questions. All right, so our questions today are kind of into two different sections, and this first section mainly focuses on the Halloween party, because of course, lots of people like the Halloween party, and they wanted to ask us a lot of questions. So this first one is for both of us, so both Korliss and I will answer, but I'm gonna kick us off here. This is from Janie on YouTube, and she has asked, what are each of your top tips for Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party? So my first tip is to kind of know when the best time to go is. And this kind of relates to another question I got from Angela on Instagram, because she asked when's the lowest crowd week to go to the Halloween party. And she asked if Halloween night sells out. So best times to go, I would say, is, avoid Halloween. The week of Halloween, it's really crowded. Halloween night always sells out. It usually sells out a good month ahead. I also think the first party is not a good idea. That one usually sells out fast because a lot of bloggers and whatnot go. So I think the first 2 weeks of September are a really good option. The only downside is that this is peak hurricane season. So really check all of your cancellation policies with hotels and travel if you're flying, for example. If something happens, tickets to the party are non-refundable unless Disney cancels a party because of a hurricane. So that's a little tricky. So my next best option, I would say, is the first week of October is not bad. Obviously, the closer to Halloween you get, the more crowded it gets. First week's not so bad, but if you do that, I'd say stick to a weekday as opposed to like a weekend party. Those are really crowded. So my second tip also is to eat a really big late lunch. The party starts at 7. You can get in as early as 4. But I think once the party starts at 7, there's so much to do and you're going from trick-or-treating to characters and this and that to sit down to a meal in the middle of the party is a bit of a waste of time, I'd say. So I think a big late lunch is a good way to start your day. And also maybe consider a character meal. You can do Chef Mickey's at the Contemporary right next door. You can kind of walk to the park from there. If you're an annual pass holder, you have a day ticket and you're in the Magic Kingdom from the morning. Maybe Crystal Palace for lunch would be a good idea. Get those bellies nice and full before the party, I say. And my third tip is know your characters and where they are. This is a big reason why I do my Christmas or Halloween and Christmas party guide videos. I like to tell everyone where all the characters are because these are really popular. If you're trying to do Jack, Seven Dwarfs, or Moana, they tend to start meeting guests before 7 o'clock, sometimes 6, sometimes even earlier. If you want to do them, get in at 4, line up straight away. If you're doing any other character that starts meeting at 7, my best tip is get in line for them by 6 o'clock, 6:30 at the latest. That way you can be first in line. That's a great way to start that 7 o'clock kickoff party time, I'd say. So, Korliss, what are your 3 tips for Halloween party?
All right, so my tips are pretty close to a couple of your tips. So my first one is, if you're not an annual pass holder, do not buy a regular theme park ticket because is we're moving into tip 2 because you can get into Magic Kingdom at 4 p.m. just like you just said, David. So I like to get in right at 4, get my wristband, head on in and start scoping out, the scene, kind of like what you mentioned. And then my third tip, which kind of meshes all together with what we said, is deciding between character meet and greets or attractions. So it was hard for us to try to do both when we went. Um, because yeah, the party lasts kind of late, but you also want to see the parade, you also want to see the fireworks, so that kind of takes up some of your time. They have some really great character meet and greets that you don't get often, like you said, David, during these parties. So if you're big on getting those photos, then you definitely need to head to the most popular, character meet and greet lines. But we're attraction people. So, if we happen to run up on a character whose line is short later in the night, we'll stop and take a picture. But we're heading straight to the most popular attractions when the party starts, when those lines go away. And here's kind of a tip inside of tip number 2, which was to go in at 4 p.m., arrive right when the party starts. This was in the past. I hope that they still allow it. Fast passes aren't in existence right now. I don't know if they'll come back, but you could actually make fast pass selections with your party ticket between 4 and 7. So we would actually start riding some of the attractions early and then hop back on some of our more popular, must do attractions once the crowd levels went down.
That's an excellent, excellent tip. I actually completely forgot about that. You're right. I think if you're trying to do a little bit of both, I've done enough parties now, both like by myself, both with people, that I always do those fast passes from that 4 to 7 slot. So I have at least 3 rides I can do. I line up for like Jack or Sally first. I get out by like 6. I mean, that might mean I miss a ride in that fast pass slot, but I still book them anyway. And then, yeah, doing a ride then at 7, something popular, is a good tip. Yeah, if you're trying to do a mix of both, I like to do a really popular character before 7 to get on a ride at 7, because that seems to be the best flow, if you will. So those are good. All right, so this next question is sort of related to Halloween, sort of not, but it's a really good one. This comes from Jill on Instagram, and she's asked that, she says, my daughter and I have never been to an after-hours event at Disney, and we were wondering if you feel that they're a good value compared to Not So Scary or the Christmas party. Thanks so much. Wishing you and your husband a happy Thanksgiving. Take care and please stay safe. Thank you, Jill. I hope you had a good Thanksgiving, and I hope you guys are doing well, staying safe as well. This is a great question. In terms of after hours, I've only done it once. I've done the Villains after hour at Magic Kingdom. Some other parks do after hours. Animal Kingdom has done it in the past. Hollywood Studios has done it in the past. And this is just an opportunity for you to get a few hours in the park at night when there's hardly anybody in the park. The Villains version is a little twist. It's very similar, but they have one little stage show with the villains, and not a parade, but a little cavalcade of characters as well. So if you didn't watch it, watch my Villains After Hours review that I did last year, because it goes into more depth. But I will say that back in the day, I'm talking like 5, maybe 10 years ago, the Halloween party felt more exclusive. They sold less tickets. It wasn't as expensive. And it felt like a really fun private after hours party where there weren't so many people. You can do some rides and get the Halloween entertainment. But now they sell so many tickets that it's very packed, and it's, I think, lost that exclusivity to it. And after hours is kind of replacing that in my mind. So if you're going to anticipate getting on rides easily, you're not fussed about characters so much, you just want a nice, really quiet, have the place to yourself and do lots of rides, after hours is great. In terms of value though, the Villains is quite expensive in terms of the ticket. Last time they did this, if you purchased the ticket in advance, it was $145 for both kids and adults. If you bought it on the day, it was $155. That's a little steep. But the regular after hours without the villain is $129 if you buy it ahead. And if you're an annual pass holder or DVC member, it's $99. So that one's a little more on par with the Halloween party. I know I tend to go on nights of the Halloween party where I'm paying around $90 anyway. But something a little bit of a twist is that the after hours event, you get free unlimited like popcorn, Mickey ice cream bars, and sodas. The Halloween party doesn't give you that. So from a value perspective, if you do that $99 one, it's not bad in terms of price comparison. You get a little extra with food. You can just go in, do rides, don't worry about eating dinner, eat dinner before you go. And I think it's quite good. I think I like it a little bit more than the Halloween party. So yeah, that was a great question, Jill. And Korliss has another one that's similar, but it's about going to the park in the morning.
Yeah, this one comes from Susan. She sent an email and she says, "Have you ever done early morning magic at Magic Kingdom where you get to experience some Fantasyland rides before the park opened? Is it better than the regular extra magic hours hotel guests get, and was it worth the money?" So, Susan, I did. I have been to an early morning magic in Fantasyland. They also offer it at Disney's Hollywood Studios, I believe Toy Story Land. But I've experienced the one in Fantasyland and it was awesome. Similar to the nighttime events that you just talked about, David. There are a few attractions that are open. So, like, it's a Small World, Seven Dwarfs Mine Train, Winnie the Pooh, Peter Pan's Flight. So, all of these attractions that typically will have very long wait lines are open. And when we went, honey, hardly anybody was there. We were riding things over and over again. I think I got on Seven Dwarfs that morning. Um, Probably 5 times, like just back to back. Nobody was no yes, no one was in there. It was worth every penny just to be able to do that. So they start you I think you're getting in, I think it was like 7:45 that we got in. And this particular morning, typically when they offer the early morning magic, they're not having extra magic hours for hotel guests, so they don't overlap. So you don't have to worry about the hotel resort guests coming in early. You get the park, that section of the park to yourself for all those hours. I think it's until like, park open, so maybe 9 or 10. And then you got breakfast. When we went, they were offering breakfast at Pinocchio Village House, but now it's at Cosmic Rays. But it was a very nice, continental style breakfast, bacon, eggs, pastries, all the juice. I mean, and it was, just eat as much as your heart's content. So it was really nice. I have to say that it was worth the money, worth every penny. And then, by the time the park opened, we were like, I guess maybe we'll try and go ride on, maybe go over to Frontierland, Tomorrowland, ride on something. We were about ready to go. And then we, enjoyed the rest of the day in another park.
It sounds like to me that like because like after hours, I know after hours is priced the same for kids and adults. It might be too expensive if you have really little kids and obviously it's later in the night. So that's probably better if you have like teenagers or you're a couple without kids, and early morning magic sounds better for like you, Corliss, that you have young kids to really knock out those rides first thing in the morning and then have the rest of the day, as you want, sort of
That's
thing.
true because we are rope droppers. We typically are.
Yeah.
That's just what we like doing. We also sometimes will stay up for fireworks, but early mornings are just our thing. So it was perfect.
That's great. I'm glad that we got both of those questions because it kind of tackles different types of people well. So I think whoever you are, depending on what you like to do, either one sounds really good to me. Okay, and my next question, this kind of takes it back to Halloween a little bit, but ventures into Universal, comes from Rachel on Facebook. Now, before I read her question, I wanted to kind of add something in here. Rachel asked us a question in our last Q&A doing dining. She asked about best themed restaurants at Universal, but she also submitted me a question after Korliss and I recorded, but before the video went up, so it kind of got lost. I didn't get to mention it in a video, so I just wanted to throw it in really quickly so that Rachel gets some love. Rachel asked, do you think that Universal might get a Sesame Street themed restaurant? And sadly, Rachel, I think the answer to that is no, because SeaWorld has like their Sesame Street land, and I think there's some Sesame Street stuff at Busch Gardens. I think SeaWorld owns both parks, both SeaWorld and Busch Gardens. So I would believe that somewhere in that contract says if you want to use Sesame Street here, you can't do Sesame Street at like Disney or Universal. So I sadly don't think that'll ever come to Universal or Disney. I think that will stay in the SeaWorld family. But then her real question for our special events Q&A this week is, which theme parks do the best Halloween event, Universal or Disney? Now this is a really tough question. Disney, obviously, the only Halloween thing they do is the Halloween party at the Magic Kingdom. I wish they did Halloween stuff. I don't know, at a few other parks that would be fun. And Universal, of course, does Halloween Horror Nights, which is very popular. To compare them to each other would be unfair because they're very different. I mean, the Halloween party is definitely for younger kids. It's not scary. It's all about the costumes and the candy and the parade. Whereas Halloween Horror Nights is definitely geared towards like older teenagers and adults who love to get scared, who love the really scary, gory stuff and go through all the haunted houses. I will admit to you that I am deathly afraid of haunted houses. I think I have a serious phobia and I can't get through them. I've tried as an adult, not at Universal, at other places, and I just can't do it. So I've never been to Horror Nights, and I'm embarrassed to say that. I was working up the courage to do it this year, like in hopes that they were going to do a Beetlejuice house, which it looks like that's what the plan was, because I loved that movie as a kid. But I haven't quite done it yet, so I can't give you a fair comparison. But just knowing that I don't like haunted houses, I will probably always say that I prefer the Halloween party more because it's a little more my style. Okay, so for this second section of our special events Q&A, we're gonna focus on the holidays. We got a lot of questions about Christmas and all the other holiday events at Disney World. This is Korliss's favorite time of year. It's my favorite time of year, so it's a good way to end this one. So we figured, since Janie asked us what our top tips for the Halloween party are at the beginning of the video, we do the same for the Christmas party. And now, a lot of the tips we say will apply to both, but we kind of thought there's some extra little things a little bit more important for the Christmas party. So I'm gonna let Korliss start us off with her 3 Christmas party tips.
Yeah, so my first one is Christmas party is my absolute favorite. You've already said it, but love this Christmas party. So the first thing that we always do once the party starts, we are already in the park. Then we get in early, like we mentioned earlier, but what we will do is go straight to Cosmic Rays. We go straight to Cosmic Rays because they got the food, but they have a party in there. So they have reindeer coming in, and the DJ, is not Ray. What's his name? That's the DJ in Cosmic Rays.
Well, Sunny Eclipse is the normal DJ,
it.
but
he disappears.
Yes,
he disappears, and we got a live DJ in there, and it is fun. It really is a lot of fun. So we actually kick off the Christmas party at a party. So they're playing Christmas tunes, and the characters come in, the reindeer especially, and they dance, and we all dance with them, and we just have a really good time. And we've eaten because my kids like to eat all day long. So we've eaten a regular lunch, snack, and then we're eating dinner. So we're having fun playing around in Cosmic Rays. And then, normally one of the holiday treats is also in Cosmic Rays. So we'll have a holiday treat while we're in there. And then my next tip is to find the magic shots. Magic shots will come with your pictures with the PhotoPass photographer. So they're positioned all across the park, at the castle, Main Street. If you don't know exactly where they are, you can always ask a PhotoPass photographer where the magic shots are. But these magic shots will have a character of some sort appear inside of your photo. So you will have your photographer say, "Hey, need you to strike a pose. Do like this." And then you'll have Tinkerbell sitting in your hand, or you'll have a reindeer standing next to you once you check out your picture inside of your My Disney Experience account. And then my third tip is to just listen to the tips we gave for the Halloween party, because you can use all those tips again for the Christmas party.
Yeah, that's you're right in the sense that both tips for both work well, but I'm glad you highlighted what you highlighted, because Cosmic Rays, you're right. At Christmas time, at the Christmas party, there's a lot happening in there between eating, cookies, the dance party. There's a lot happening in there, and it's not quite the same at the Halloween party. And magic shots are great too, yeah, but I kind of like them at Christmas a little bit more because I usually use them for Christmas cards. stuff. So I tend to make more of a thing out of it at Christmas. All right, okay, so thankfully my three things I was going to mention are different. So it's nice to get a little variety here. My first one is to know all of your show times. Obviously, both parties have the parade, the fireworks, and the stage show, but the Christmas party has a little bit extra. They have the castle lighting ceremony, of course, with Anna and Elsa and Olaf and Kristoff from Frozen. And then in Tomorrowland, they actually have two little mini stage shows on the Rocket Tower Plaza stage. There's usually one with like Buzz and Mike Wazowski, and then there's another like vocal group. So I always tell people, if you have someone who's quite sensitive to big crowds, and like the hub gets a little too busy, Christmas party has a lot of extra little entertainment offerings that the Halloween party doesn't have, and a little bit smaller in size, not as overwhelming. My second tip, now this might sound a little crazy, but go with me on this. I say for the Christmas party, obviously there's lots of characters to meet, but I say skip Santa Claus for the Christmas party only because you can meet him at so many other places. You can meet him at Hollywood Studios during the holidays, Epcot with Mrs. Claus, and even Disney Springs. I know some people, it'll be tradition to probably do it at the Christmas party, but I always like to do what I can't do anywhere else during the Christmas party. So if you can resist the temptation, do it somewhere else. I like to go to Hollywood Studios for that one.
Or
and
wait till
finally,
you get home.
or wait till you get home. That's true. That's true. It's become a family tradition for us, like when we all go immediate family, all 7 of us, like my parents, my sister, where we go meet Santa at the store at Hollywood Studios at the end of Sunset Boulevard, just because it looks like a vintage department store. That's our family tradition. Yeah. And at that park, it's a little easier to do. It's not like there's as many things to do. And my final tip, it kind of applies to both, but it's especially important at the Christmas party. Make sure you watch the parade from Main Street. It's the only section of the parade route where it snows, because you won't get that in Frontierland or the Hub. So at least once, you must do it. And some people like to stand at the train station in Town Square to see the parade sometimes because it's higher. But remember, at Christmas, you've got that huge Christmas tree right in the middle of Town Square, so it might block your view. So I say get on the ground floor, do the second parade if you can, and definitely at least once in your life, watch it from Main Street because it's extra special.
It is.
Now,
Oh,
yeah,
can
it's
I add
great.
something? Yeah, let me add something. So a couple years back, I got to do a recording for a Disney video with Disney Parks Blog when I was on the panel. So we actually, and they use this section for, I believe, if you want to, for reserved standing, if you have a dinner and then you'll have a reserved spot, but right actually by the tree. So if the tree's behind you and you're facing straight down Main Street, you actually can get a spot right there. And you're watching.
The money shot.
Yes,
The money
honey.
shot.
Yes. You can watch the characters and the floats come straight to you. It is absolutely beautiful. And then you're still getting the snow and all the effects. Oh, child.
I got that spot a few years ago and it was a great spot. But now you're right. They do like a dining event at Tony's Town Square, and those are the people who get that spot. I didn't do it at Christmas. I've done it at Halloween. I talked about it last year. It's not the best dining event, but if you want that money shot, that's what you got to do.
And I would not even suggest that spot for the Boo to You parade. It's really just a Christmas parade. It's something different about Boo to You than it is for the Christmas parade with the viewing section.
It's the snow. It's totally the snow. Like that's the only spot you get that great view. Great. I'm glad you added that one in for us, Korliss. But you've got our next question that also deals with the Christmas party, but it has to do with cookies.
This one was submitted by Kathleen on YouTube, and she asks, when they are handing out cookies at Mickey's Very Merry Christmas Party, what if I have an allergy? What do I do then? Girl, Kathleen, Disney's got you, honey. You don't ever have to worry about any allergy, any food illness you may have. They will be able to take care of you. So what you will do is at these cookie locations, you will say, I have a food allergy. I can't eat these. What do you have to offer? And typically every spot will offer an allergy-free cookie. And it's typically wrapped in its own container. And they're probably going to be wrapped whenever they start it back again. But yes, I think the allergy
Last year, everything was wrapped individually. They just changed that
That's what
last
I
year.
thought. That's what I thought. I remember it being handed cookies in a napkin before, but I couldn't remember when they added the packaging. So yes, you can get an allergy-free snack um, at the cookie locations. Now, there may not be a big variety of allergy-free cookies, but they do have them.
Yeah, unlike Halloween Party has like that little coin system where you pick up a medallion, then you trade the coin for allergy-free candy later in the night. Christmas is not quite like that. Like Korliss says, just ask wherever you go. In years past, there's usually one cookie station that gives you the full line or almost the full lineup, but they've always changed where that is. Like one year, I remember at Pinocchio's, they had almost all the cookie options and all the allergy-friendly options. So it was like the best one-stop shop. But every year they've kind of slightly modified it. So it's a little different at Christmas. So that's a good question. All right, so my next one, moving past Christmas and the holidays, moving to New Year's. This one's from Elizabeth. This came in via email. And she's asked, have you ever done the parks on New Year's Eve? What is the best park to go to? Or are there other special events you can do outside the parks but still get some fireworks? This is a great question. This used to be a family tradition of ours. We would go either the day after Christmas or a few days after Christmas and go specifically for New Year's. We've stopped doing this because it's just gotten too crowded. Some people in the family just can't handle the amount of people anymore, and the cost of the hotels have gotten too expensive. So we don't quite do it anymore, but I do know what happens, so I still can give you some good advice here. So a quick little rundown. Because New Year's Eve is kind of a weird thing at Disney where some of the holiday stuff are still happening, some are not. So it's a bit of like a weird changeover period. Magic Kingdom, obviously the Christmas parties are done by this point. They're done before Christmas, but some of the entertainment offerings from the party become daytime stuff for everybody the week of Christmas and New Year. So on New Year's Eve, usually, the Christmas parade that happens at night at the party becomes a daytime parade. And I think last year, Mickey's Most Merriest, the stage show, happened on New Year's Eve. And then, usually twice a night at 6:30, I believe, and midnight on both the 30th and the 31st, they do a New Year's Eve fireworks display. This is not Happily Ever After. It's not the Christmas fireworks. It's its own show. I think it's called Fantasy in the Sky. And there's 4 performances there, and I'll get back to that in a minute. Epcot, by this point, Festival of the Holidays is done. There's no candlelight processional anymore on New Year's Eve or the holiday storytellers. I think the food booths still stay open on New Year's Eve. And then they have little dance parties throughout different areas of the park. And they, like last year, they did Epcot Forever at 11:40. And then at the end of it did like a countdown into midnight. But something unique at Epcot is throughout the day, as it turns midnight in whatever country and world showcase in real life, they celebrate. So like at, I don't know, I think it's 6, 7 o'clock at night when the UK hits midnight, they do a little celebration there. So it's kind of an all-day party. Hollywood Studios is the only one where all of the holiday offerings that have been happening since November still happen on New Year's Eve, and then they add on top of that. So at the beginning of November, Jingle Bell Jingle Bam replaces Star Wars fireworks for like that 2-month period. And obviously you've got, holiday offerings throughout the day and the projection show on the Tower of Terror. On New Year's Eve, it's a bit of a change up. They do Jingle Bell Jingle Bam usually at like 6:30. They still do World of Animation, the projection show, and then they count down into midnight, and at midnight they do Star Wars Galactic Spectacular. And on top of that, they still do Fantasmic. So there's lots of entertainment at Hollywood Studios. And Animal Kingdom last year for the first time ever stayed open till midnight, and they did a little countdown with a projection show on the Tree of Life. There are no fireworks at Animal Kingdom. So that's like the rundown of what happens on New Year's Eve at Disney. And my advice is I would do, if you want to do Magic Kingdom, I'd actually go on the 30th, not the 31st. It gets too packed on New Year's Eve, I think. And remember, Magic Kingdom's one of the smallest parks at Disney, and it gets very, very crowded. I know people like Korliss, I know you love the Magic Kingdom and probably would do it, but I think it's a little too crowded. So the 30th sometimes is a little notched down in crowd. It's still very crowded, but it's a little bit less. And so I would say do the 31st, either Epcot or Hollywood Studios. depending on your group. If you've got older people, like no little kids, Epcot would be better. It's a little bit more of a party atmosphere. The reason I say it's better for adults is because there's a lot of drinking going on. And so maybe you don't want you little kids getting tied up in some crazy partying. Hollywood Studios has, as I told you, a lot of entertainment. So that would be my choice for New Year's Eve. I know that's not. Everyone will probably say, I have to be at the Magic Kingdom, but I politely disagree. And just because you asked, some hotels have dining events in their signature restaurants. So the Contemporary, Coronado Springs, Riviera, Boardwalk, and Swan Dolphin all have special dining events in their restaurants. These things are very expensive though. I'm talking like $300, $400, $500 per person. That it's a whopper. But the only one that really gives you good view of fireworks would be the stuff at the Contemporary. Topolino's at Riviera and Toledo at Gran Destino Tower. You can see fireworks, but you're not as good of a view. I think that is best if you've got a lot of money to burn. And maybe, I don't know, adults without kids? I don't know. That's out of my personal price range. That's too much for me. So yeah, that's New Year's Eve in a nutshell at Disney. But Korliss has another question, also kind of talking about stuff to do outside of the parks during the holidays.
Well, David, I actually want to jump in on that last question. I've done New Year's Eve there one time, several years back, and we stayed at Port Orleans Riverside, which is my favorite moderate. But we did go to Epcot. I do not like crowds. Magic Kingdom is my favorite. I would never do Magic Kingdom on New Year's Eve. We did Epcot, loved it, had an excellent time. Was supposed to be back at the resort to enjoy. They actually offered some character meet and greets at the resort that night. So, if you want to have a party, I think they had sparklers and things to welcome in the new year. But we were tired, so we missed it all. But some of the resorts, I know Port Orleans Riverside did it that year, will offer some special character meet and greets on New Year's Eve too.
You're absolutely right. I think all of them will have something, some character. I think you're even like I think I've seen All Stars or Pop Century have a character or two. So that's good. Did you like Epcot at New Year's? That was kind of when we did it. That was what we did do. We had a lot of fun doing Epcot at New Year's.
I did. My children actually love Epcot because we really like Test Track. We love the everything in the land. So we like soaring and all those rides there. So yeah, we had a really really good time that year.
See, I think. I'm glad you told me that you wouldn't do Magic Kingdom on New Year's because I know how much it's your favorite park. So that makes me feel better about my opinion.
I don't like, too close. That's too much. You all in the space. Yeah. So our next question came by email from Mark, and he asks, what are some low-cost holiday offerings you can do outside of the parks? Tickets to things like the Christmas party are getting really expensive, but my family and I want to do some special holiday experiences at Disney that are easier to do. So, Mark, you sound like my family. We also, want to enjoy Disney, but not go broke doing it. And the holiday time can be very expensive. So here are some of the things that we really enjoy doing outside of the park. Disney Springs has a tree trail. Oddly enough, it is really fun to walk through this trail and see the different decorated or the themes of each tree. You'll take a picture in front of your, Moana tree or, your character there. And then at the end of the trail, Santa's there. So you can, have a photo op with Santa. But it really, I was surprised at how long even my small children enjoyed seeing those trees. We probably walked through there for 45 minutes, which was surprising to actually do that. So that's one thing. Also at Disney Springs, I don't think they offered this last year, but the year before they had the drone show, which was really nice. You could go watch, some sort of entertainment there. Disney Springs will have different sort of offerings every year for entertainment for those who aren't in the parks. Now, here's a good one. It's not very expensive. You can rent a golf cart at the campgrounds over at Fort Wilderness. Rent a golf cart and ride through there and look at all of the Christmas decorations. When I tell you, those campers decorate these sites like they are at the house, I was shocked. But I loved it. It was beautiful. So, and then also, if you don't want to rent a golf cart, just hop on and off, some of the buses that go through the campgrounds, and you can see them there or walk. You can walk and enjoy the night there. But I was shocked at how beautiful those decorations were from guests in the campgrounds. So that's probably my number one thing to do outside of the park. And then last, inexpensive, or it can be very expensive if it's, not close to the holiday season, not too close. Get a dinner reservation at what, like David said, at the Contemporary, somewhere that has a view of fireworks. Also, this is something we like to do. It's not holiday-ish, but there are some beautiful decorations at the boardwalk at really in between the Swan and Dolphin. They will light up, how Chick-fil-A lights up their drive-through. They're lit up this walkway playing Christmas music, and we actually have a really good time kind of walking through there, enjoying the Christmas music, riding the ferry around to see, the decorations. And then people also love to go and see all of the trees that are at each resort. So, you've got Fort Wilderness as well as Grand Floridian, who have these massive Christmas trees where they a lot of times will have a photo pass photographer there to take your picture. And then, of course, Grand Floridian is known for the gingerbread house. You can get a shingle, take that back, eat that with, some hot chocolate or coffee. But those are the things that we like to do at the holiday that don't require us, to buy a theme park ticket. But you could spend an entire day doing all of those things.
Absolutely. If I could add one, you touched on this a bit. A nice little round on the monorail loop is good because, like you said, Grand Floridian has their gingerbread display. The Contemporary has a gingerbread display as well, and they have their own little shop of treats. That little route, and maybe if you do that and add in Fort Wilderness, the lights at all the cabins and campgrounds. That's like a nice, fun, full day of Christmas stuff without buying tickets to parties and whatnot. Well, guys, that will have to do it for our special event Q&A episode. Like always, thank you so much, Korliss, for taking the time to do this with me. I always have so much fun. And I mean, you and I have had this conversation privately, but I want everyone to know who's watching at home. If you're happy that I'm still standing here doing at least some form of content, you have to give a big thank you to Korliss because she's been my rock. She's been my motivator, my biggest cheerleader. So Korliss, thank you so much for keeping me positive and keeping my eyes on the prize and focused.
Friend, I wasn't expecting that. I'm kind of tearing up a little bit. That's very sweet. Oh, that's very sweet. But I think, we've really helped each other. It's been very cooperative, and, we've worked together and, talk a lot and just really, really have built a very strong friendship. And I'm so thankful, despite all of the things that 2020 has brought us. One thing it did do was bring us together, and I am just so happy about that. And, I love you.
I love you too. I know that everyone can tell, but I wish you guys could see behind the scenes. Korliss and I, we're a match made in heaven. This is super smooth. The chemistry was just there from the get-go. It's been wonderful. But I also have to thank all of you viewers. I know I haven't produced a lot of content this year, obviously because of the pandemic and wanting to kind of hold back a little bit. But so many of you have written to me personally, kind of keeping me motivated, just like Korliss. And all of this, like Korliss said, has reminded me of why I like to do this. I've always tried to make this not about me. I try to make this about you guys and help you guys, because that's my passion. Is I love Disney and I like to share it with everyone else. And I want everyone to go and have the best time with their families, not break the bank and go broke. Try to find a few ways in there to not lose all your money at Disney, but to share those family traditions and vacations together, because I think they're truly special. So thank you, Korliss. Thank you to the viewers. And before I leave you today, I've been doing this at all the Q&As, but I've got one more. Election season is not quite over yet. For those of you watching who live in the wonderful state of Georgia, you've got one more runoff election. You don't need me to remind you, because I'm sure everyone is reminding you. But I'm here to remind you as well. So, if you haven't done so already and you're gonna request an absentee ballot, do it right now. Don't waste any time. Coincidentally, the day after this goes up, so Monday, December 7th, is the deadline to register if you're not registered to vote. And if you're a young voter, remember, if you're not 18 yet, but you're 18 before January 5th when the runoff election happens, you can register right now. So keep that in mind. And finally, early voting starts 1 week from tomorrow on December 14th. So we've got one more round of election season to finish off before the Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa holiday season comes upon us. So let's finish 2020 with a bang and move on to 2021. So without further ado, thank you so much. And like I always say, if you can dream it, you can do it.